Okay, so I've just set up a view on this sheet where I've added a couple of call-outs with some references set up. So is that something you'd all be comfortable with? Setting up call-outs? Yeah, that's right. So look, I'll very quickly say, if you haven't done that before, it's on the View tab. You've got call-outs, and then you simply click and drag to make a rectangle. So I can do another one there. That's right. Yeah. Look, you can do it all. You can do all of this in Revit, but there's two things. Firstly, if you end up working in a there's actually three things now. Think about it. So if you go and work in a firm where they use AutoCAD, they'll expect you to know it. In any course like this, especially a bachelor course, you're always expected to learn AutoCAD first. And yeah, that's. Oh, sorry. Well, at least learn AutoCAD at some point. Yeah, normally we'd learn it first. Not all the courses do it in first year now. More and more are moving away from that. But definitely by second or third year, everyone realises they've got to learn AutoCAD. But often they have to teach themselves. Not many unis will teach the way we do. But I don't know of any other bachelor course where they teach Revit. So we're unusual in that way. But that's because we're tied in with the more technical courses, the vocational courses, where we do teach Revit. So there's lots of reasons to learn AutoCAD. But the other reason and I'm one of the people responsible for keeping AutoCAD in all of these courses, because by learning AutoCAD, you're actually learning a lot about the way Revit works behind the scenes. So you can learn Revit by itself, and in the architectural drafting course, that's what we teach. I've taught in that course for years, and they don't teach AutoCAD at all anymore. You can get by just with Revit. But what we found is the people who only know Revit, they only get so far. And if you want to get that higher level understanding, you need to go back to first principles and learn a program like AutoCAD to appreciate everything Revit is doing for you. So I think it's still really important to understand AutoCAD. I would not know Revit anywhere near as well as I do if I hadn't been using AutoCAD for 15, 20 years before Revit even existed. And it helped me hugely. So also it was a good grounding in software development, because to learn if you want to go into the technical stuff, the programming languages that AutoCAD's built around are much easier as a foundation than the ones that Revit's built on. So here though, you'll see once you go and start documenting things in Revit, now that you know AutoCAD, it will become crystal clear to you how it can be used to improve your productivity, even though the drawing tools, and we're going to get onto this, on the Annotate tab you've got all the detailing tools. So the drawing tools that you have with, say, things like detail lines are slower than the drafting tools that you have in AutoCAD. Much slower. So you might be thinking, well, why am I going to use Revit to draw when I can draw much faster in AutoCAD? But it's the management and the updating and revising of things that is much better in Revit, essentially, even though the initial drawing is slower. And so one of those things that's heavily automated in Revit is the referencing, and that's what I'm trying to show you. You've got these call-outs, which you can see here, this one's come up, and I'm sure you're used to this, without a reference because it's not on a sheet yet. So I'll go and add that to a sheet. If I go and I'll make one more sheet, that makes sense. Oh no, sorry, actually what I'll do, what would make more sense, is if I use one of the sheets that I've already got, and I'll add it to that sheet. So I've got here 2 sheets with call-outs on them, and I'm going to put that other call-out that I've just made onto the sheet with the second call-out. And I'll keep it at a different scale, that's okay, even though normally it'd be 1:50. Okay, so we've got these different sheets with different call-outs, and then we had that problem that John was showing you before where...
So can I ask something, John? How do you put that on the sheet there?
You just click and drag?
You just click and drag.
Yep, from the project browser. Yep. So now, looking back at the original sheet with the whole floor plan on it, we've got a problem. Can you see what the problem is? 1 and 1. Now, it's not really a problem if you're not doing reverse referencing. Yeah, that's right, because the drawing number at the bottom makes this tag unique. But if we do reverse referencing, it will be a problem because this sheet is, let's put it with a one that's going to show us the, oh no, the tag's gone. Oh, so I'll just go and load in a new one. Okay, so I'm going to get a title block that has a drawing number. So it's A2, isn't it? Yep, so A2, this one will do. Okay, so this is sheet A106. And then the next one, A107. Let's get that up there. I'll tidy it up in a minute. And then the original page, you'll see we need to know that as well because it's going to have reverse referencing. So this is A104. So when we go to this page, oh sorry, let's go to the one that has the 2. Okay, so this is A107, but I'm going to show you how to make a reverse reference tag. So underneath it, what's it going to have? It's going to have number 1, and then what's it going to have below the line? 104, that's right. So this one, oops, so this sheet as well, it will also have one A104, and we can't have that. So that's why reverse referencing creates that problem, and you've got to resolve it in a few different ways. So you can use letters or leave the numbers off, that's one approach. But if they're all plans, they probably all do need to have numbers, and so this one would need to be number 2, and this would need to be number 3.
How would you decide which one went first?
Oh, just left to right, I'd say, yep. Okay, so now we've solved that, so back onto the page. So this is now 1, 2, 3. And so then, what I really want to show you is how to make the reverse referencing tag. So to do that, we need to firstly know what we're dealing with. If you select the viewport and go to Edit Type, you're going to see it's got this, this view title called NViewTitle. So how do we go and find that? How do we edit that tag so that we can make it our own? And the only way to do that is to find it in the Family section of your project browser, and then you'll see annotation symbols, and you need to know the name. So remember, it was NViewTitle, but if we go back and look at the actual full name, okay, so the type is NViewTitle, but the family name is ViewTitle with Oz in brackets. So that's what we're looking for. So it's ViewTitle. NViewTitle is just the type, which is a variation on that, that family, which you need, even though there's only one variation here. You still need to have a type. So that's the way it works in Revit. So you've got types. They're variations on a family. If you right-click, you'll see you've only got the option to duplicate and modify type properties for that type. So we're not right-clicking on that one. It's the one above, the view title, where we right-click and then you get the option to edit. So that edit option means edit family. So if I choose edit, then you'll see it takes us to the file. It'll either create one or take you to the file in the library. But normally it'll make a file for you. And you might think this is a bit of an esoteric thing, but most of you at some point will need to do this to make your tags longer. And I'm saying tags, your labels longer. Okay, so this is the label, and notice how it's only so long. So I'll maybe give you a quick example showing you why you need to do that. So this is level 5 call out 2. What if I decide, well, actually it needs to be level 35, part plan, conference room, and lift shaft. That's too long, right? So you'll see this when you start to do longer and longer titles for your drawings. You're going to have that problem where it just won't fit into that text box. So now, just to do a simple thing, so we'll close that one. Okay, so a simple thing I can do now is simply extend that text box. So that's now a decent length. So then I just need to save this. I'm going to go save as family. and I'm going to save this into a folder that you can get to on the P drive. I'll save it into our Revit library folder there, into annotations, and well, I'll just save it there actually. And we'll call this view title, let's put NMOR in brackets, or ED, NMOR Design Centre, EDC.
Is this an issue because it's more conventional not to have the title on 2 lines?
Oh yeah, well you'd never want the title on 2 lines. Yeah. They just didn't make the text box long enough.
Yeah.
I think.
I just didn't know that was a convention, so I wasn't worried about it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, so then I'll save that, and now I've got to load it back into my project, and then to get that to come up, simply on my sheet, well, I can select that viewport, edit type, and then I'm not going to duplicate this type here because I want all of them to change to the new one. So I'm just going to change that option there for the title to view title EDC. That's it, okay? And now it fits on one line. That's right, exactly. So all the others I can make them long as well, that's right. So that's it. So now I'm going to make another variation on that tag that's a little bit more advanced, showing you how to put reverse referencing in. So you can do reverse referencing in Revit. A lot of people think you can't, but you definitely can. It's just a bit more involved. So firstly, I need to make this bubble a bit bigger because we need a bit more room. So I'm just going to make that 8 mil. No, so I'll make it 9. It's got to be a decent size. And then I'm going to move this text, also it's actually a label, up a little bit, but also need to make it a bit smaller, so I'm going to change it over here in properties to 4 mil. That should be alright. And then I'm going to simply draw a new line in using the view title subcategory. There's probably the only one there. And just draw a line there, bisecting that circle. Okay, so that's all pretty straightforward, just changing things that are already there. So now comes the slightly advanced part, making your own label. And this is one of the main capabilities of Revit, the fact that you can have labels that are parametric. In other words, text, that's parametric, as opposed to just text that doesn't change. So if you're wondering how they have some text that you can change and that changes as you do things, it's all done with these things called labels, not text. So you've got the label tool, and then over there, I'll start with the 4 mil and see if it fits. And then I'm going to choose my, just make sure it's on center and center, middle aligned. So I'm going to choose roughly in the middle of that space there where I want my reference to go. And then we get the options for the label, and there I'm going to choose referencing sheet, right, for my label, and just click the add button. That's it. So as long as you know which parameter to choose, it's not that difficult, as long as you know the steps. So there we are. So I've got my reference there. That might be right, that size, so I'm going to test it out. Firstly, I'm going to save this family. And again, I'll save it so you can get to it. So we're going to call this view title reverse. Or backwards referencing, it's sometimes called. So what have you been calling it? Reverse referencing or backwards referencing? Reverse, yeah, okay. So that's fine. So I'll call it view title reverse. So you can all load it in from that library now. But again, it's a fairly easy thing to do, so it's worth trying to do it yourself. So I've done that, so I'm going to go load in the project. And now go back to one of my sheets with the call out on it. And all I have to do then is select the viewport, edit type, and in this case, I would duplicate the type because I want to have the option of either having the reverse referencing or not having it. So I'm going to duplicate this and I'll call it title with line reverse. And because I've already given that name, I'll just choose the one that I made earlier. And then now, the important thing is I'll change this title to the one that I've just loaded, view title reverse. And that's it. So there we are, perfect reverse referencing. And that's a pretty powerful thing if you set that up in Revit, because it's all automated, unlike AutoCAD, where you'd manually be going and checking what view is referring to what. And when you've got a drawing set with over 100 drawings in it, that is a pretty big task. But here you can see it does all the hard work for us. The problem is, though, you can't use workarounds and cheat, in other words. You've got to be consistent in the way that you number things, and you generally have to stick with numbers, even though you can put letters in. You'll see it gets very complicated if you start doing that. So you can see, again, 1, 2, 3, all to different sheets. And then when we go here, it's going back the other way. And here we have to start at 2, even though it would let us make that number 1. But the problem then would be that this is number 1 on A104, and so is this. And we don't want that. That's why you will end up using this approach, having views that start with a different number or a number other than 1. But that's, I think, something you've just got to live with and maybe tell your builders that's how it is. Or, you know, use overrides. You can make the overrides work, and then might be a bit less confusing for some of them. It's up to you.
Does that have a symbol in Revit that has the multiple four-pointed elevation?
Yes, of course. Oh, yeah.
Never used it.
Oh, yeah, oh, sorry. Okay, so 4, yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so I'll show you that. Okay, so we want to do an elevation of an internal space, interior elevation. So on the View tab, you've got the elevation tool. So you just use that normal elevation tool for everything. And what's going on there? I didn't get to place it.
We used that much to do Revit.
Yeah, oh yeah.
What's that? Did we use the elevation tool much when we were using Revit?
Okay, so I think in my view, elevations are hidden. So I'm just going to unhide them. That's something to watch out for. So I've got to go to the light bulb there, and yep, they're hidden. So there's my elevation, which I'll just unhide. And it's also hidden by an element, but I don't care about that. So I didn't make this file, so someone else has put in elevations at unusual angles, but we don't care about those. As long as we get the normal elevations, north, south, east and west back, then I can make some more. So here I'm just going to place an internal elevation, but on this view it doesn't really make sense because of the scale. So it'd be better if I go to one of my call-outs and do it there. So this is 1 to 50, that should be alright. So I'll go back to elevation, and that should, again, not showing them because they're hidden by category. And it's here difficult to find my elevations because the view's also cropped. So in that situation, do you know what to do to find categories that are hidden? Yeah, but if the light bulb isn't working for you because...
Go to view and then grab the...
That's right, exactly. Over here, go to your main visibility settings. So the shortcut for that is VV, or you click on this button. And that used to be where we started in the early days teaching Revit, because this is like your layers in Revit. But now with the light bulb, sometimes you don't need to look at this so much. So for this, though, it's important. If you go to the annotation categories, you'll see their elevations are turned off. I'll just tick that so they come back on. And then I can go and make an elevation in this firm and it'll fit. Yeah. So to do different view directions, though, you simply need to place it with one and then select that circle and you can turn on the others. Yeah, it's a great option. But, yeah, because again, if you know AutoCAD, this all becomes much, much easier. It is. But you know AutoCAD enough. You know AutoCAD better than a lot of people. You'd be surprised. And yeah, you do. And also the fact that most of you understand that annotative option in AutoCAD.
Yeah.
That's something that a lot of people, even people who've used AutoCAD for 20 years, still struggle with. If you understand annotative in AutoCAD, then you're a long way to understanding what Revit's doing for you. Well, as if you've got a bit of an idea that it's managing the scale for you, and then you start to realise that in Revit, it manages the scale for you even more. And so when I change the scale here, if I go to 1 to 20...
Why do people not understand that? It's very simple.
Well, you'd think so, but conceptually, like I said, there are architects I know who've used AutoCAD for over 20 years who struggle with that. And when I say to them, you do realise that it's managing the scale of your text and your line types and your dimensions, it takes them days for it to click. And they go, no, it's everything else is being, I'm scaling my walls, and no, you're not. You're drawing one-to-one. They don't get it, because it's at the print stage, everything gets rescaled, and yeah, conceptually that's hard for some people.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, it helps, doing it with AutoCAD, you're forced to deal with it. Otherwise, yeah, the guys who just use Revit, it just does this stuff for them, and then even tell them, see how the text is changing size when you change scale.
Yeah.
It's relative to your objects, it's not the print scale that's changing, and they just don't get it. So yeah, I think it's still really helpful to know AutoCAD.
But it makes you very grateful of Revit.
That's right, and then you're thankful that Revit came along to automate all this stuff.
I think that's why you're teaching it, so that we love Revit.
Yes, that's right.
Well, kind of, yeah. But look, I'm still a huge fan of AutoCAD. I've got a really soft spot for AutoCAD, and anytime I get to use it, I jump on it, because I don't use it for what you're using it for, but if I've got to do a complex site drawing or something like that,
Yeah.
I always prefer to use AutoCAD. And more artistic sort of spline-based line work,
Yeah.
AutoCAD is my favourite program. Yeah. And even for some 3D modelling, AutoCAD is brilliant. But yeah, Revit has a huge number of advantages. So of course Revit's amazing. And so here though, you can see what John was showing you earlier. I think was it Kim's one, where you had the old way of referencing your elevations, and that's fine. This is how it used to be done. Yeah, and because that's the way John would have told you, and you wanted to get marks, so that's right. So I would have done that too, where you have the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. They're your view numbers, and then the sheet number goes outside. That's the old way, and the reason it's become the old way is because programs like Revit have their families essentially set up a little bit differently. I think this has always been the way they've done it in America, but other places have done this too for a while, where you have, so this thing won't go. That's right, the view numbers go there, and then the sheet number goes on the inside. Sometimes you need to have multiple sheet numbers on the inside, but normally you can just have the one, because the elevations tend to all be on one page. So, to get the numbers up, we need to put these views onto a page. Where are the views? When you go to your elevations, it will automatically number them. Elevation 1, if it's the first one, A, B, C, D. And so then, that's it. So if I go and make, but it won't use those.
Oh, what?
No, they're just in the title. And I'll show you what I do there. So here, if I make this another interior or internal elevation and tick, 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 this is now elevation 2, A, B, C, D. Now, I've got my own opinions about referencing, because I was a drawing checker person for a while and had to, do all this stuff, making sure other people reference things according to the office standards. And what I realised after a while is that if you've got a consistent system of referencing, we'll tidy these views up in a second. I just want you to see the actual the names. So if you've got a consistent system, then you can have just the numbers. And then you wouldn't put in elevation 1A, because the number's here. The number is in the view tag. And we can even put it with the reverse one. That'll work nicely here. So that's the numbering. So putting a number into the title as well just adds confusion. So you could put bathroom elevation, but I always said to people doing all my drawings, don't worry. If you've got the number gives the reference. So you just need to say whether it's an elevation, a plan, or a section. Or you could maybe say detail section or something like that. But you don't need to say elevation 1 or 2 again. So the tag, the title can be the same. Why not? Oh, it's on this sheet. Sorry, you do need to have, that's right, that's annoying. Revit can get in the way here. I had to make a tag that had a different option there, and you can do that. But for now, we'd have to say, elevation 1 at least, and this would be elevation 2, not elevation 1B, because it becomes confusing. So at least have the same numbers if you're going to have the number in the title as you've got in the tag. But what I've done is I've made another tag that has the option of having the same names on the sheet, which I think is pretty helpful. Sorry, but that's it. So now if we go back and look at those call-outs, you can see the numbers go on and the number in the middle, and then, we don't want to look at that. You can go to the sheet, and then again reverse referencing, taking us back to the sheet that it's on. Oh, now, sorry, that's interesting. It's not working properly because it's picking up the first one. It should be picking up the second one. So maybe we've got to have the detail. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so let's just have a look at that. So if we go back, it works for a one-sheet reference, but works across multiple. Okay, I'm just going to test it out. If we go and change that.
Your new reverse.
Yeah. So referencing detail, I think, is what you might need. Let's just load that back in. No, that's not going to work either. Okay, so Revit, unfortunately...
When it's multiple, it doesn't like that.
Yeah. But you should have a choice, because it's going from the call-out. Yeah, okay, that's a programming error, because, well, it's an issue with the way it's programmed. Yeah, so there, it's definitely on A106, but it's picking up A104, so that's a shame. I wonder if we hide it on that. I don't think it's going to affect it. So here, if it's hidden here, I think there'll be an option. There must be an option. In the view properties, maybe, to say where it's referencing from. I'll have to look at this. Dependency. If you do dependent views, that would probably get around it too. But yeah, that's a bit of a problem. So I wonder if you hide it on this.
That's a good reason not to do reverse.
Yeah, reverse referencing creates lots of problems. If it's just one sheet to another, it's not a problem, but I'm just going to hide these and see if it helps. It probably won't. Okay, so let's see now. You never know, they might have come across this problem before and already... Yes, it fixes it. There we go. How good is that? See? Some of the guys who program things for Revit are pretty clever, and they've anticipated this problem, or they probably had a complaint from someone who does this thing all the time, and that solves it.
So you had to hide the other.
Yeah, and you'd be doing that anyway because you wouldn't want that big elevation symbol on your big scale plan, so that gets around it. Isn't that genius?
It would be if I totally understood what you've done. I'd be amazed. But
Okay, so I'll show you. Okay, so just so it's clear, so all I did is hid this on this sheet that I didn't want the reference coming from. So this is sheet 104. So by hiding it on sheet 104, then it picks up that it's also on sheet 106, but that the tag is visible on sheet 106. And so therefore the reference now is to sheet 106. That's genius. So the programmers at Autodesk, Revit Corp, part of it, do some really clever things like that occasionally, which aren't what the software would want to do, but they've overridden it and said let's make it do what it should. Yeah, it's pretty clever. So that's genius, I think. Anyway, if you try some of those things, I know it can seem like a lot of technical fiddling around, but there aren't that many steps, and it will really deepen your understanding of Revit overall. And so that's probably enough for the referencing in Revit. And but again, all those workarounds John showed you as well should give you a better understanding of the reasons for all of these issues and why some firms they just get away from reverse referencing. But it's a nice thing if you can do it. It does help the builders on site when you've got a 100-sheet drawing set. It helps them hugely if they can find out when they're looking at a detail which sheet it's being referenced from. So that's why reverse referencing is good. But because of the complexity, you know, a lot of firms just give up and go, let's not worry about it. So then I'll do another video on the detailing tools, which is really what I've wanted to get onto for a while. So I'll come back to that in a minute.